Welcome, everybody, to the Friar Talk podcast. Today, we're going to be recapping the Mariners series, talking about the Padres are now winners of 9 straight and currently are the best team in the league according to the win percentage. And then after that, we're going to get into the Brewers series and preview that one. A lot of stuff to talk about in that series, especially. So we'll probably keep this Mariners recap pretty short. And then later in the week, we're going to come back and maybe talk about some trade stuff just between series because we don't have Chase on today. And we want to find a time to kind of get him on and start talking about Chris Bryant and some of these other guys that have been kind of rumored to the Padres a little bit. Not any true rumors, but, talked about as potentially taking over in left field. But let's get into this Mariners series. Isaac, what were your thoughts? And, there's going to be a main guy that's going to stand out. But what are just your overall thoughts after watching baseball this weekend?
Yeah, I think from us in the comment section, for anyone that watches this, we just need to appreciate Fernando. I think we were talking about it before this. I don't think I've ever seen as many, this is the first player to do this in this long, from a player that's not Fernando. And in this past series, it was Fernando's the first player since 1932 to bat over 700 with 12 RBIs and 3 walks since Babe Ruth. That's insane. Your name is mentioned in the same vein as Babe Ruth. But I think another thing that needs to go, that we need to appreciate is the depth of this team. We missed Fernando for a bunch of games during this 9-game win streak, missed Will for 8 of the games. Manny hasn't been playing. Grisham has been hurt, and we're still finding ways to win ball games. Granted, it's against the Mariners, but either way, we're still finding ways to win ball games on the backs of, Fernando's been carrying this team so far. And it's really strange because he's been hitting cleanup, and I don't think anyone in their right mind ever thought Fernando would be our cleanup hitter. But right now, he's really solidified his spot there, and I don't think you should move him. But really also with his pitching staff, the pitching staff's been pitching amazing from all the starters to the bullpen. Blake Snell in his past start gave us a good start. But talking about this series against the Mariners, all of our starters did really well, including Chris Paddock, and then Ryan Weathers and Lamet had a good outing, and obviously we know what to expect from Darvish. So just really good baseball around. This is some of the best Padre baseball I've ever seen. I want to say the best because I really don't think I remember a time when Yangervis Solarte, Alexi Amarista, those guys ever gave me this much excitement. And, just watching this kind of baseball is really good to see.
Yeah, and talking about Tatis, because we definitely gotta focus on him to start off, just because talk about spectacular play. You said he was over 700 batting average. I think that was the reason why he was in the same mentioned in the same time as Babe Ruth, kind of in those stats that you brought up. But another thing I wanted to bring up is his OPS would be the highest in the league if he qualified for enough at bats. And then on top of that, he's 2 home runs shy for the lead. He's missed 17 games. What have they played? 50 games, right around 50 games. He's missed a huge portion of the season, yet he might be, if he had the qualified at-bats, he'd probably be the front runner for MVP right now in the NL. That's insane. And you just look at how dominant he was this series. His ability to just flip the switch and just go is incredible. He had a 218 batting average before coming back from injury, which was on Wednesday. Then he plays this 3-game series and the Wednesday game. So 4 games, he moves it up to 309. That's insane. Moving your batting average almost 100 points because you are that dominant, because you're hitting over 700. I think it was 11-14 on the series. Bunch of home runs, a lot of power. So got to just give props to Fernando Tatis for really carrying this offense in this series. But you brought up, how some of these other guys have played really well and, next man up kind of mentality. We have Jurickson Profar playing pretty good. Ha-seong Kim is turning into an RBI machine. The batting average is still at low 200s. I think it's 214 right now. But dude seems like he gets 1 RBI every single night, and so he's been a huge contributor, especially on defense. Austin Nola, Victor Caratini have been fantastic. It was cool to see Will Myers back. He didn't have a hit, but he had the sac fly. Eric Hosmer, was it Saturday when he had that double? I think it was the Saturday game. He had the double with the bases loaded when, yes, they intentionally walked Tatis, kind of give him the Barry Bonds treatment there, where they just, we're not gonna let him come up. We've seen what he's doing. And then I think the other guy that has definitely just earned a right to be mentioned in in like the breadth of the Trent Grishams, the Fernando Tatises, and the Manny Machados. I think this guy has kind of cemented himself up there, at least in the time we've seen him. And that guy's Jake Cronenworth, hitting over 305 now. Might not bring, the power that these other guys have, but he is so great at playing his role, and he's kind of cementing himself as that 2 and 3 hitter, which is, talk about that. I mean, it was the Tommy Pham trade, but Jake Cronenworth has been everything and more than what we've kind of expected from him. But what do you think? You think Cronenworth has kind of cemented himself to be talked about as like a future core piece? Because we talked about that with Trent Grisham earlier in the year, that, hey, this is a guy that should be thought of as the Padres' future center fielder, because a lot of people, weren't super high on him when he got traded here, and then he looked good last year, but really streaky. And, a lot of people were kind of iffy on him coming into the year. I think that's definitely changed. But I think Cronenworth is getting there as well. Do you feel the same way?
Absolutely. We've been calling this guy Jake Cronengod. I mean, Jake the Rake. This guy, he whenever he goes on like this hot streak, it's like he's getting on base at least 3 times a game. And if you set it up to where, Tatis batting cleanup now, Grisham, Cronenworth, Machado, Tatis, and then Hosmer batting 5th and Myers batting 6th. Oh my God. I don't really know if there's a better lineup, because if all those guys are hot, obviously they're all not going to be hot at the same time. But when you have Grisham batting, he's probably batting over like 290 right now, but I think he's going to end up being like a 270, 280 hitter. I think the same with Jake Cronenworth, who will maybe get on at a higher rate. Manny Machado is going to turn it on at some point, and then Fernando's our superstar. We know what to expect from him. But Jake definitely deserves to be mentioned in the kind of the same category. He's not a superstar, but he's going to be an everyday player, and he's going to do a really good job at it. Right now he's batting, I think it's he's batting over 300. I wanted to say it was 305. I'm not entirely sure. But he gets on all the time. He plays stellar defense. He's a good base runner. He does it all. He's a really good ball player all around. And I definitely think that, anything about trading him or just not having him in our future, like from what we've seen from him so far, we need him in our future. He's very valuable to our team right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And then kind of going on and talking about a little bit off topic of the bats, because you win a game 16-1. I mean, they just put up a ton of runs in this series. Absolute dominant offensive performance. But we talked about the pitching a little bit. We've seen it from Darvish. We've seen it from Lamet, Weathers, all those guys. And then everyone in the bullpen seems to be just pitching phenomenally, especially Mark Melancon. Outstanding start to his season. But a guy that we talked about a lot early on in the year, haven't talked to him quite as much. I want to kind of finish up this recap segment by talking about him. But Chris Paddock, he's brought the ERA under 4. The curveball looks great. The fastball looks like he's throwing it with a lot of confidence. I want to say he hit 98 in his start on Friday. It might have been 97, but he's hitting high 90s. And I think that's one of the biggest things, just the confidence in the fastball. And it seems like he got put on that injury list I don't know what the injury was. I don't think it was disclosed, but he's come back a new player. Like, he has looked fantastic. Isaac, you've been high on Chris Paddock and really wanted to see him succeed. And so early on this year when he was struggling, it was kind of tough to watch. But what do you think about him now, just after seeing these great performances from him?
It's exciting. I mean, because in 2019, Chris Paddock was probably our ace, and we all thought Chris Paddock was going to be our ace of the future. And I remember in the beginning of 2020, he had some really good starts too against the Diamondbacks, the Giants. He had some really good starts, and then out of nowhere, everything just went downhill. But I will say in 2019, whenever he faced good teams, the Mets were decent. I wouldn't say they were good, but I remember against the Phillies, I went to his home start when we got rocked. He got rocked, and it was tough to watch, but he still looked like he had all the potential in the world to become a future ace. 2020 was rough for him. We saw him get roughed up by the Dodgers. We saw him get roughed up by the Mariners, and I expect it from the Dodgers, but not the Mariners. But right now, I think the Padres found the best role really for Chris Paddock, the guy who's going to throw 3 or 4 innings, go once or twice around in the lineup. And then we're going to bring in somebody like Miggy Diaz or Dinelson Lamet, or, just someone who's going to piggyback him. And I think that's Chris Paddock's best role right now, because when he gets that 3rd time in the lineup, only having 2 pitches, he's trying to make it 3 right now with that curveball. And I will say that curveball definitely does look really good. But as of right now, I think his best role will be that piggyback kind of thing. And I think he's doing really good at it. That's nothing like against him. He's just
Yeah,
really good in that role.
yeah, I totally agree with that. On Friday though, he did go 6, which
Yeah.
I think that you go into these starts maybe not expecting, but being fine if you do need to utilize that piggyback role. But if he's looking good, like, and he can go 5 and 6, obviously that's a plus. But even just asking him, and like you said, Diaz is, I think he's been typically been the guy that comes in after him. But having him there, like, hey, Paddock, you run the problems, like it's not going to be the end of the world. Like, you're going to have bad starts, and maybe that's a way that you build confidence. But I like the way they've been utilizing him, and very interesting that he comes back from this injury list just ready to go and just to be dominant. But I think it's going to wrap it up for this recap series.